Okay, good morning, and we are back into Tehillim, and we're starting a new one today, number Ayin Aleph 71. And Rabbi writes in his Hagdam, his introduction, that the truth of the matter is this is very much a continuation of the previous Tehillim, the same similar ideas. HaKadosh Baruch Hu coming to the rescue of Dovid HaMelech and saving him from his enemies and bringing him to salvation, except this one is referring to Dovid when he is being chased down by his son Avshalom, as we've spoken about many times over the years. And apparently, which maybe we were not so much aware of or focused on, Shaul HaMelech is the one that we're speaking about in the previous one. That was his father-in-law. And Shaul HaMelech was the one that was really out to get Dovid in his youth. He became married to Shaul's daughter, and at that point, Shaul is chasing him down and trying to get rid of him and usurp him and the like. However, Avshalom seemingly attacked his father or came after his father much more in his old age. You would think Dovid HaMelech went through enough hardships in his life already. He had enough difficulties where he was running always and trying to escape his enemies, and he would just want to live out the end of his life with a little bit of respite, and it was not destined to be because Avshalom, his son, decided to try to come and overthrow the throne later on in his life. So Dovid HaMelech is really at the advanced stage of his life at this point. He's getting older, and this Tehillim is a special tefillah that Dovid HaMelech is asking from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that just as you have saved me in my youth, and just as you took care of me when I was younger, so I certainly need your protection and your salvation at this point as well. But even more than that, as Rabbi points out, and we'll see in the Tehillim itself, that every person, as they get older on in life, they would like to know that the life that they are leading, or the decades of life that is behind them, they would like to know that they were doing the proper thing with all of those years. As a person becomes, very dreamy-eyed, and they become very nostalgic and reminiscent of their more youthful years and the things that led up to this point over here, so they would like to know that the accomplishments that they achieved and the lifestyle that they led and that which they occupied their time and their efforts and their energies with is something that is meaningful in the eyes of Hashem. There's no worse feeling that a person can have than when they really question whether or not that which they were doing all of these years was what HaKadosh Baruch Hu really had in mind and in store for them. I remember sitting many, many, many years ago with an uncle of mine, and he was getting on in age, and he was always like, in our family, he was like, everybody idolized, everybody looked up to him, everybody always thought that he was the powerhouse of the family. And I had come back from yeshiva, this is going back many years ago, and I was staying with him as I was looking at yeshivas in America, and every night he would take me out on the patio of his apartment where he lived, and he would start reminiscing about his entire life. And it was very clear to me that there were many parts in that life of his that he just wasn't sure that he had maximized and done everything that he could have done. And there were a lot of holes, and there were a lot of disappointments, and there were things that were let down. And I remember thinking to myself, I hope that when I'm at 75, 80 years old, 90 years old, however old he was at the time, I hope that I won't be dreamy-eyed and sad about the things that I didn't accomplish or didn't do in my time as well. And therefore, Dovid HaMelech is asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu that as I'm getting on in the years and as I am looking further into my life, I would like to know that what I did is pleasing in your eyes. And here he writes that the the emptiness and the boredom which atrophy the body and frustrate the soul at advanced stages, they shouldn't be a part of my life. That rather I should have crowning accomplishments. I should be very much, what you should see is you should be pleased with, and I should feel satisfied to the extent that I can in what I did. And finally he writes from the Meiri, who's one of the great Rishonim. The Meiri writes the following, that Dovid HaMelech identified his own afflictions in his old age and the anguish of the entire Klal Yisrael, the Jewish nation, meaning, as we learned many times, Dovid HaMelech did not only suffer for himself, but Dovid HaMelech suffered for all of Klal Yisrael. And he realized that just as he'd had a very difficult life, and even now, in the end of his life, it doesn't end. Here comes my son Avshalom chasing after me, trying to destroy me and take my throne. And there are the ailments of old age and the aches and the pains and the like. He saw himself as somewhat of a model, a representative of Klal Yisrael, that Klal Yisrael also is going to have a very long and arduous journey. And they're going to grow weary during this long exile, the gullus that they're in. And not only is Dovid HaMelech praying for his own rejuvenation, that Hashem should take care of him and give him the strength that he needs to continue going further and be satisfied with his deeds, but also that Klal Yisrael, as they will be trailing around in the gullus of this world, HaKadosh Baruch should give them a spiritual revival that is going to give them the strength and the wherewithal to continue going forward and having the salvation, as we're going to see in this Tehillim, that is necessary. So Dovid looks always to himself as the model of what's going to be with Klal Yisrael. And if he's having a hard time, and he's getting weary, and he's declining, and he doesn't have any respite and for himself, so he's asking that just as he needs, that HaKadosh Baruch should take care of him, HaKadosh Baruch should take care of Klal Yisrael as well. So we're in the end, the Ikvis of the Mashiach, we're at the end of the heels of the Gullus over here, and it's getting quite tiring. It's not easy. And it doesn't get any easier as we see, it just gets worse and more difficult and more painful and more incomprehensible as we go along in these years that we're watching. And so just as Dovid asked that he should be redeemed from his own travails at the end of his life, so he was asking for Klal Yisrael that we should also be redeemed from the travails of Klal Yisrael. And that's what everybody is cleaving to and hoping for these days, that whatever we see going on and unfolding in front of us in history right now, it's just like the precursor to the ultimate redemption which we are waiting for. Says Rav Hirsch on these words over here. The first pasuk is B'cha Hashem Chasisi. In you Hashem I have trusted. Chasisi, I took refuge. Alevai Shala'olam, I will never be embarrassed. Says Dovid HaMelech, says Rav Hirsch on the words of Dovid, the following idea, that this is, as we pointed out, it's like towards the end of the life of Dovid HaMelech, as he's getting older, and we're able now to observe the spiritual maturity of Dovid HaMelech, which means through this we're going to see Dovid HaMelech blossoming into the spiritual giant and reaching higher levels, which is an amazing thing, as if we haven't seen enough already in Tehillim. But the Yesod, the foundation is that a person was put into this world to grow, and it doesn't matter whether you're in your prime, you're 30 years old, or you're 40 years old, and you've got all the kaiches about you. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 70 years old, and you feel that the strength is not the same that it was once upon a time. It doesn't matter if you're 80 or 90 years old. A person was placed into this world always to be growing. And as long as a person is growing, then they're moving in the right direction. The Ner Yisrael just had its 90th anniversary. It's a long time. Bli Ayin Hara. The yeshiva has been going strong for 90 years, and I would even venture to say it might be the strongest that it's ever been in its history. And they had a 90th banquet. I'm remiss to say that I didn't go because I saw the videos. I wish that I did go. They had about 1,500 people that were there, and it was a major, major celebration. They did it in yeshiva, and they had it was an amazing thing. The Rosh Yeshiva, Shlita Rav Feldman, he should live and be well, who's about Bli Ayin Hara, 94 years old, sharp as a tack, Bli Ayin Hara. He gave a drasha, maybe one of the most beautiful, eloquent drashas I ever heard him give before. And his whole point is that we're here in this world to grow. And that the sign of success of a person in this world is if no matter how old they are, and he's talking about people that have been out of the yeshiva for some of them decades already, that if you're still growing and you're still striving and you're still moving in the right direction, well, that is what life is all about. And we were placed in this world. There will be challenges and there will be difficulties, and not every day is going to be a day in paradise, as they like to say. But if you're working on yourself and you're striving to grow and get to a place that you know is a better place than you are right now, that's what life is about. And this Dovid HaMelech is saying over here, I've gone a long life. He didn't live, so he's 70 years old when he passed away. So I don't know exactly what age we're talking about over here. But I've gone through a lot, and it's been very devastating, many things that I went through. But notwithstanding, says Dovid HaMelech, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep striving. I'm going to keep trying. And you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as you took care of me all those younger years of my life, please continue to take care of me at this time in my life as well. And that way I can continue to expand and elevate myself and increase my ruchnius, my spirituality, and my understandings of you and my mitzvahs, as we'll see Dovid HaMelech, that's the sign of a person that's growing. There's a mice, I forget who it's with, that he was one of the Gedolei Ador in his generation. I can't remember. It was back in Europe, and at the end of his life, he got very sick, very, very sick. And he was in the hospital, and the doctors told the family, you have to really guard your father. Every ounce of strength that he uses is going to take away a minute of his life. You got to make sure that your father doesn't overdo it. He shouldn't be getting out of bed. He shouldn't be doing too much. He has to take it easy. Otherwise, he's going to die. So the doctor told him, your father cannot get out of bed to daven. If he needs to daven, he wants to daven, even that's pushing it, but he does it in bed. He lays there and he doesn't get out of bed. So they told their father, Abba, Tati, you know what the doctor says? That's it, you're in bed right now, we're trying to preserve your life. Every ounce of strength that you have, it will increase your amount of life. Don't push yourself, please. Don't get out of bed. You need to daven, lie in bed, it's okay. Halacha-wise, you're allowed to do it. Fine, the father says fine. So they walk out of the room for a little while, the kids, after they gave them their drasha about protecting your health, and they come back sometime later, and they see their father out of the bed, standing in the corner, davening in a Shemona Esrei with so much energy and so much conviction and so much kavanah. He takes 3 steps back, and he falls into his bed, and he said, Atati, what are you doing? They said, we told you you're supposed to lie in the bed. He said, it's the end of my life. He said, you think at the end of my life I'm going to take it easy right now? The last hours, the last days, the last months, whatever is left, it's now that more than ever I have to put in all my energies to daven the way that I'll never daven again. And that's the way of a Yid. The way of a Yid is that we are always growing, we are always pushing. Rabbi Yashiv Zeichet Tzaddik Yivracha, he was once in the hospital, and he had a very strict Seder Halim, a strict amount of time that he learned every single day from 2:30 in the morning, and the whole day he would go. The man was in the hospital. He was quite weak and quite sick, and he had one of his grandchildren sleeping in the hospital with him, and they assumed that he wants to sleep, so they didn't bother him. So he woke up a little late, and he said, why didn't you wake me up? He said, Zaidi, you're sick. The doctor said you have to rest. He said, no. Torah is Torah. And he pulls himself up in the bed, And he was very makpid, he was very particular. When he would learn, he would always be dressed in the appropriate way. One of his things was he would always button his top button. He felt that it was a covet, it was an honor to the Torah that he would have his tie. He didn't wear a tie, but that his top button would be buttoned. So his hands were not working so well in the hospital. He was weakened, he was feeble, and he's trying to button his top button. And he turns to his grandson and he says, please, button my button for me. I have to learn Torah, standing in front of Hashem. And that's what he did. Until 102 he was, 102 and a half, 103. Until the last day of his life, he was busy making sure that he was growing and pushing and trying to do more. Says Tehillim over here, Dovid HaMelech is telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen, you're with me all these years. You helped me to grow all of these years. I'm getting older. Everybody knows as they get older, the strength is not the same. The mind is not as clear. The energy just isn't there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't want to stop growing. I want to keep going. As much as my Rabbi, one of my Rabbi in Yeshiva of Kalevsky Zatzal, so he was from the Gedolei Magidei Shir, he was one of the biggest Talmidei Chachamim in America, and he was a giant, even in Eretz Yisrael, recognized as a giant. He, all of his life, he had different health issues that were going on. He had heart issues, and he had lung. He was when I was in his shir, he was in the hospital not once, more than once, and he would miss time and parts and this. And at a certain point, when he was in the yeshiva, he'd gotten quite ill. He was in the hospital for an extended period of time. And there was a rumor that was going around the yeshiva that he's going to step down from his position as a Rebbe because he just can't do it anymore. He doesn't have the strength anymore. That he was almost legally blind in his eyes. So to learn was like such an effort to be able to learn. And his lungs weren't working so well, and his heart wasn't working so well. And so his grandson we were in shir together, and his grandson went to tell his grandfather, Zaidi, you know what they're saying? They're saying that you're stepping down from being a Rebbe. You're not going to be giving shir anymore because you're getting too old and too weak. So he told his grandson, he says, you go and you punch that guy in the nose and you tell him, I will give shir till the day that I die. This was about maybe 3 years, I believe, 3 or 4 years before he passed away. And to his word, he gave shir till the day that he died. The last day of his life, he was already the Rosh Yeshiva. It's called Shir Klali, where the whole yeshiva assembles in the main base midrash. And he's the Rosh Yeshiva. He gives a shir to the entire yeshiva. He was very weak already at the time. He was on oxygen, but he wanted to give shir. So they brought him into the base midrash, and there was a chair and a table. Normally he would stand, but he couldn't stand anymore. The chair and a table. He gave a shir. It was very difficult for him to give shir, and he felt bad about it. He felt that he wasn't so clear as he was giving the shir. At the end he said, did I make myself clear? And then people came around and they asked him questions. And from basically the base midrash, he went home, and from the house he went to the hospital, and he died several hours later. So until the end, he said, I will give shir to the last day of my life. And sure enough, Dovid HaMelech is saying, that's what he's saying. He said, we came to this world to grow. We came to this world to do. We came to this world to accomplish. If you lay down and you take it easy and you lie back and you're in the reclining chair and you're just taking whatever you're going to do, lazy boy chair was not made for Klal Yisrael. It was made for the rest of the world. It wasn't made for us. We can't be lazy. And therefore we have to push as much as we possibly can to do and to do and to do. And you find this very often. By the greater the person is, as they're getting older in life, they're trying to accomplish more and more and more and more because they realize time is limited. You're not going to be in this world forever. At a certain point, you're going to leave this world. So what are you going to take with you? Whatever you can do in this world is what you're going to take with you. When you get to that world, there's no more Torah, there's no more mitzvahs, there's no more growing. As much as a person grows, they grow in this world, and therefore we have to try. Says Dovid HaMelech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, help me to be able to achieve those levels that I'm striving for. Next pasuk, B'tzidkasecha tatzileni, in your merciful justice you should save me. Usfalteni, and deliver me. Hatelai, I want you to bend your ear towards me, aznecha, your ear, and I want you to save me. Says Rav Hirsch, I know that you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I know you, that in your tzedakah, in your kindness, that you're going to eventually deliver me and you'll allow me to escape the destruction that I'm threatened by. Meaning, I know you already, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You've been with me for 70 years, as we're about to see in the other psukim. You've been with me every single step of the way. I know that I'm going through more difficult times right now. I'm being chased now by my son. I don't know how long I'm going to be in this world. My throne is in a precarious situation over here. But I know that you've saved me every other step of the way. I know that even in this late stage in my life, you're going to save me as well. And I'm asking you that I want you to bend your ear and incline your ear even now. When I'm in danger, I need you to save me so that I will be able to receive your ultimate deliverance, which seems to say the following. Dovid knows that he's going to be saved. He knows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with him. But knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is listening to you when you daven to him, knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears the words that you're saying, knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is listening to you asking for salvation and he's ready to do that, that itself is a chelik, it's a portion of the salvation already. When I feel alone, when I feel abandoned, when I feel that Hashem is not listening to me, it's the emptiest feeling for a person in the world. But if I know that even right now when I'm struggling, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is listening to everything that I say, he's aware, he's listening, he's bending down his ear, he's coming down to me, he's beginning to get the wheels of Yeshua, of salvation going, that itself already is a CHIZUK. That's an encouragement to the person. When I know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares and he's listening and he's with me, I get a strength already. I'm ready. I'm already looking towards the salvation because this is the beginning of the salvation that is there. So a person should keep in mind that no matter what the situation is that they are in life, no matter if they need a real Yeshua, they need a real salvation, the mere fact that you're davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you're asking, you have to know that he's listening already. Listening already is half of the Yeshua, half of the salvation. Because once that he hears, once that he listens, and once that he evaluates what it is that you're asking, what you need, then the Yeshua, the salvation, it's just around the corner itself. There was a Maisa of there was a story of a woman who came to Kever Rachel. I think if this, remember the story correctly. Her and her husband also, they didn't have children for many, many years. They came to Kever Rachel, and he told her, look, you go to the ladies' side, I'm going to go to the men's side. Okay, the buses are running every half an hour. So take a half an hour and daven to Hashem, pour out your heart. And after you pour out your heart, in a half an hour, he says, we'll meet back and we'll get the bus back to Yerushalayim. Fine. She says, fine. He goes off to the men's side and he starts davening to Hashem, and she goes into the women's side. She starts davening and davening. I don't know anybody's ever been by Kever Rachel. It's maybe the holiest place for a person to utter their tefillas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And she starts davening. And she breaks down at Kever Rachel like she's never broken down before. And she pulls out a pen and paper. She's so moved to words. She doesn't want to forget how she feels at that moment, how she's talking to Hashem. And she writes basically a letter to the Rabbi Shalom, where she's pouring out her heart to Hashem, explaining what the last 10 years of their life are like without children, explaining how all the davening and all the this and all of that, and what she's asking her. She begins writing it out. Half an hour goes by. She's still in the midst of davening. She's not going anywhere. And she keeps writing this letter, detailed word for word for word. Another half an hour goes by. She doesn't stop. She's not even aware of what the time is. The husband's on the other side. What's going on with my wife? He's waiting for her. She keeps davening and davening and davening. And she's crying and davening. Misses the third half an hour. Misses the third bus. Finally, after within that half an hour, she puts in her last feelers. She finishes her letter to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. She walks out, eyes puffy. You imagine tears running down her face. Her husband says, "Everything all right?" She says, "I just davened like I never davened before." They go back to Yerushalayim, and within 9 months, 10 months, they have their first child. Another 10, 12, 13 months later, they have their second child, and another year later, they have their third child. And she said, in the schus of those 3 buses that I missed, because I was pouring out my heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I knew that He's listening to everything that I say, and that schus HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us 3 children. It says Dovid HaMelech, Rebbeinu, I know that you're listening. And you should know the comfort that I have that you're listening, that's already part. And that's already a chelik. Maybe that's even half of the salvation that's coming already to me. Says the next pasuk, Hayeli litzor ma'oin, you are like a sheltering rock. Lavai samid, I should be able to come there at all times. Tzivisa lo ishieni kisali, you have given me the tzivan, you have given me the mitzvahs, the commandments, and they will lead me to salvation. Kisali mutsudasi ata, you are my rock and you are my fortress. Says Dovid HaMelech over here, 2 beautiful ideas. Number 1, that if a person is in imminent danger, and they have to get out of harm's way, so there's a place you can go, you can climb up onto the rock and get out of the danger. That's one thing. I get above where the danger is, but there's another place that a person can go. And that is when they can go and they can be shielded in the refuge of the rock itself. Meaning if there'll be like a cave, there'll be a cleft, an enclave into here, that is a place where a person can go and be safe for even a longer period of time. They'll be protected from whatever danger is going on around them. Says Rav Hirsch the following idea, that if you get into the cleft in the rock itself, so he says that it's a shelter that will give us protection, and it will last even during the dark days. And even when a person is from the untroubled heights of which we look down upon this, he says like this, that a person can see all the things that are going on around them, the troubles, the difficulties, the pain, the darkness, all of that. And if you're in that place of refuge, where you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting you, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of you, so that's a security, and that means that a person has nothing to fear. And he says so poetically that there could be dark thunderclouds that are floating below us, but we're over here in this cleft in the rock, and therefore we have the clear, serene blue skies above our heads. Like we mentioned previously by Hirsch, he explains that when a person finds themselves in the storms of life, you have to keep in mind that just like when you look outside right now and you see the rain coming down and you see the sky is dark and there's rain clouds all around, that's what it looks like from there down. But if you'd be in a plane and you'd be able to fly through the clouds, there's blue sky up there. The sun is shining. That means you just sometimes have to get over the clouds, beyond the darkness, through the struggles, and the light of salvation is waiting right there for a person. Says Rav Hirsch over here, it's true that sometimes you get up to a certain place, and you're looking and you're seeing there's so much difficulty, so much struggle, so much hardship, but yet I can see the blue skies. I can see the light, I can see the sun that is there, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are my protection, you are my refuge, you are my support, you are what is going to take care of me, you'll get me through any situation that I'm in. And then he writes, Tzivisa lo ishieni, it's your commandments which have helped to give me salvation. What does that mean? The mitzvos and my connection to the mitzvos, that's what gives me the wings to soar in this world. Meaning it's the exact opposite. Very often, unfortunately, a person goes through difficulties in life. They go through disappointments and frustrations. What's the first thing to go in their life? The Torah and the mitzvahs. The first thing. I'm not davening today. I davened 100,000 times already. You didn't listen to me. I'm not davening today. I tried. I did this mitzvah more. I did this mitzvah more. Didn't work. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm not going to do it anymore. And a person gets angry with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so they begin to shed the yoke of Torah. They begin to shed the yoke of mitzvahs. They begin to shed it away from themselves. I don't want it anymore. Says Dovid HaMelech, it's the exact opposite. If you would realize that the only thing that is going to keep you strong in these moments in life is your connection to mitzvahs. The only thing that's going to give you the strength to soar and to be elevated and to be closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is your inner world of Torah and of mitzvahs. Then when it gets tough and it gets difficult, what are you going to do? You're going to grab onto the mitzvahs even more. And that's what he's saying over here. It's the mitzvahs. He says they're like wings of a dove with which can soar up at all times to brighter heights, to a better place. Don't get weak in the observance when things don't go our way. That's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be mechazik us, to strengthen us, to make us realize there is nothing else we have in life. There is nothing else we can grab onto. There's nothing else that's going to keep us strong and keep us focused and keep us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, Dovid HaMelech says, live a life of mitzvahs. And that means that even when you're dealing with the very uncomfortable situations in this world, don't let go of the mitzvahs. Mitzvahs is a lashon of tzavsa. It's like tongues. It's what allows us to grab onto the Rebbeinu Shalom. So it's backward logic. We want HaKadosh Baruch Hu's blessing. We want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help us. We want siyata d'shemaya. We want all the goodness. So how do you do that? You got to be close to Hashem. So then what do? We get angry, we get frustrated, and the first thing, over the years, I cannot tell you how many people have confided in me over the years. When the going gets tough, they get going. Right? It's really, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. What does that mean? That means you buckle down and you do more. But the nature, we're delicate people. And when things don't go the way that we want it to go, we begin to stray from that path. Says Dovid HaMelech, don't do that. At that moment is when you have to grab on to the mitzvah. At that moment you cannot let go. Because if you let go, you're letting go of the relationship that you have with Hashem. And if you want His siyata d'shema, you want His bracha, you want His blessing in your life, you need HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your life to be able to get the blessing. And therefore, says Rav Hirsch, don't let go at that time. Again, it's like, I was just, and many of you heard about this terrible tragedy of the Dovid family. Such a tragedy beyond compare. And a 30-year-old husband and a wife, they had like their second lease on life. They were both divorced before, and they got married only about a year or so ago. And they were so happy, and they're such a beautiful couple, and they had such potential, so much they could have accomplished. She was 9 months pregnant, supposed to give birth to a child this week. Apparently they knew that it was a boy already, and the families were preparing already for the bris. And they were on their way to a chassan to go and see the entire family. And at 8 o'clock on whatever evening it was last week, they were in a terrible car crash, and they were both killed, and the baby was killed on impact. I went to the Shiva house last night. It was packed. There must have been about 150 people, maybe even more, in the Shiva house. You could not move. When I walked in there, the father, the man who buried his son, was standing giving a drasha to the entire crowd. And his drasha was that how every Jew has to be grateful that we have Torah and mitzvahs in our life, and how every Jew has to realize that the best thing you can do in the world is learn Torah, and every wife should realize that her greatest zechus in the world is support your husband, that he should be able to learn Torah, And we just have to keep supporting Jewish education and helping children grow and helping Torah grow in the world. And he was telling stories about his son, about his amazing learning and how he did so much for people, and about his daughter-in-law. And we're all there thinking, well, we have nothing to say. What are you going to tell the father? And in the end, he's giving a drasha. That's like a drasha that you would hear from like some Rosh Hashiva about how beautiful and glorious the life of a Jew in Torah is. Yes?
And I don't know if people know, but Debbie Waxman, who we were privileged to have her teach our daughters, she's receiving now treatments for brain tumor. She's in Dallas.
Wow.
And her daughter lives near Michi, and she said that her mother is very weak and can't really talk much anymore. But when when Rabbi Waxman tell her, "Come, Debbie, let's go for a walk," the words that have come out of her mouth are psukim from Tehillim, which answers his question. So even though she cannot really speak anymore, her daughters are just, her families are amazed, the children. Words of Tehillim just come out of her mouth.
Wow. You have her name? Maybe you give it to us afterwards, please. Anyway, this is what we're saying over here. We're saying over here that a person who finds themselves in the struggles of life, you got to hold on tight. And holding on tight means holding on to Hashem and the connection that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us between us and Him is mitzvahs, Torah and mitzvahs. And if a person does that, then they can be guaranteed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't let go of them, and he's listening and he's hearing, and the salvation will be, as Hashem will be quicker to come than you can even imagine. Let's see a little bit of the other Meforshim over here. And no, I have to see another pasuk first. So Rav Gamliel Rabinovich writes on the pasuk over here that says, in the second one, B'cha Hashem. I'm sorry, this is the first pasuk. B'cha Hashem chasisi, in you Hashem I have taken refuge, or I trusted. Al evoy shala'olam, do not let me be embarrassed forever. Yesh levayis. Let's explain these words according a little bit the way the Radak explains. Dovid HaMelech begoidol nisyonosov. He had so many nisyonos, so many challenges in his life. Oimel Hashem Yizrach. He said to Hashem, B'cha Hashem chasisi. In you Hashem I have trusted. Hineni b'teach b'cha Hashem. I trust in you Hashem. V'kevan shechein. And since that I trust in you, Hineni yodeya. I know ba'akar b'ru'zu, in a clear recognition. Alivaisha la'ilam. I will never be embarrassed. Because that I trust in you, Hashem, I'm guaranteed I will never be shamed. I will not come to embarrassment and shame in this world. From here we learn, if someone trusts in Hashem, even though that challenges will come upon you, just because you believe in Hashem and you trust in Hashem doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges. The nature of the world it's a world of nisyonos, of challenges. That's the way that Hashem runs the world. And it's all here to make us greater. So even though you have nisyonos, mikomakum, nevertheless, you should know at the end of the day, you will not be shamed. You will not be embarrassed. If you trust in the Rebbeinu Shem, you trust in Hashem, you stay close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you make it that your whole life is believing in Hashem and pinning your faith in Hashem, even though there'll be challenges, but your bitachon is going to get you through the challenges of life, and you will be able to see Hashem is going to come to your aid. He is going to take care of you. I just heard last night a Maisa, South African Maisa, Kiwi. You know this guy Kiwi? The leopardology? No? Anyway, this is a South African who is a frum Jew. I don't know what his last name is. I have to find out his last name. And he's quite a mogul, so to speak, in business. And his main thing is that I will never compromise my Yiddishkeit for the sake of making money. I'm from, this is the famous person. We had the whole Misa with Bill Gates and Microsoft, right? That they wanted him to come and speak, and he said yes, and then he realized it was Shabbos, and they told him, I'm not coming on Shabbos, and they told him, well, how much do you need? He said, no, it doesn't matter how much you pay me, I'm not going to come, it's Shabbos. So he has a meeting with like the CEO, and the guy throws his checkbook at him. He says, you fill in the amount. However much you need, we'll pay you. He says, no, you don't understand. You can't pay me to break my Shabbos. I'm not coming. You want me to do it another day of the week? I'll do it another day, but I'm not coming on the Sabbath. So they ended up reworking everything out. They changed it from a Saturday to a Sunday, and he was able to do it. And it turned out that Bill Gates wasn't even at that meeting. But what he was teaching over was something that they felt was revolutionary. So the story goes, he says that this CEO that he became friendly with was on a plane with Bill Gates shortly after this whole story took place. And he was telling him, there's this Jew, he has his book, Leopardology, and we wanted him to do the whole thing, and he refused to work on Shabbos. And we offered him millions of dollars. So Bill Gates is told to have said, I wonder what it's like to have something in your life that money can't buy. So he told over the following story. This goes back many, many years before. He's a frum person, and he will not compromise his Yiddishkeit for the sake of making money. So he was, for 3 years of his life, he was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There was a certain business that he was doing over there, and he had to be in Pittsburgh. There was a very, very wealthy mover and shaker who lived 45 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. Something young, I think it was could be a man of German descent. And this guy was like a key to the business that this fellow Kiwi was doing. And if you could just get to him and have 5 minutes with him and be able to describe what's going on, so he felt that if he can make a connection with this person, it'll make millions and millions and millions of dollars. So he said he tried 30 times to get into this man's office. Now he said this is before phones, before WhatsApp, before texting, before even emails were a big deal. If you wanted to meet a person, you call them. If they don't answer the phone, you have no choice. You have to go drive out to their office. He said, I drove no less than 30 times to the man's office. He would never let me in. I drive out there one day, blistering, cold, snowy day. I drive to the office, and I'm standing by the front door, and I ring the bell. And it says, I don't know why until this day, I have no idea why. They buzzed me in on that day. It wasn't even the guy himself, it was his son who apparently works with him. So I walk in, it's a long corridor to get there. And I walk down the corridor, and suddenly the man that I've been waiting to meet for a long time is standing there. And he looks at me and he says, what do you want? I take off my ski cap, I'm wearing my yarmulke, and I say to the guy, hello, Mr. Young, my name is Kiva, I forget his last name. He said, I didn't come to sell you anything. He said, I just came to tell you, I'm an Orthodox Jew. He said, I live a life of integrity and honesty, and I'm giving you my word. If we will ever do business together, you can trust me. I will be honest, I will have integrity, you'll always get what I'm telling you I'm going to do, there will be no lies, there will be no cheating. You can trust me that it's worthwhile, if you want, it's worthwhile to do business with me. And by the way, because that I'm religious, I never work on Sabbath. So if we ever have to do business, it's always going to be Sunday through Friday. In the afternoon, I'm done. Puts out his hand. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your time. And then he turns around and he starts walking down the corridor. He said, I get to the door and you have to get buzzed out. And they're not buzzing me out. So suddenly I hear, whatever, Kiva. I turn around and the guy says, come here. Come with me. We walk down another hallway. He says, we walk into his office. He said, I do not know what's going on. We walk in the office, everywhere that I look, Nazi paraphernalia. Swastikas and flags and knives and swords and guns. I don't know what's going on over here. And he says, sit down. Now, this fellow, by the way, is like a black belt in judo. So he said, I wasn't worried. I could take this guy down in a second. They'd have to call the ambulance. So I don't know what's going on over here, but I'm not worried. We're sitting at his desk, big, huge mahogany desk. The guy opens up the drawer. He puts on white gloves. He pulls out a sword. A sword. Etched in the sword is Eichmann's sword. He pulls out a Luger, which is a kind of a gun. And he says, this is the gun that Hitler used. Then he pulls out a flag, a Nazi flag, and it says Adolf Hess, one of the other cronies over there. He says, I'm looking here, does this guy want to kill me? This guy hates, what does he want? I have no idea what's going on. So he turns to me and he says, you're probably wondering what all of this is for. He says, after the war and after all the atrocities, my father gave me a command. And he said, you need to buy up as much Nazi paraphernalia as you possibly can, and you keep it in a place that nobody will know about, so that it can never be on the market and people will never make money, and they should never be able to benefit from the wickedness of these people. So he told him, you should know at this time, we estimated we have about $4 million worth of Nazi objects and paraphernalia in our thing, and we leave it here so that nobody will ever be able to get their hands on it, in order that in some way we will try to destroy the wickedness that these people did in the world. And then he turns to this Jewish man who has introduced himself as an Orthodox Jew who keeps the Sabbath, and he says, do me a favor. You bring me a couple of the deals that you would like to make, and we'll see what we can do together. He said, I went back. I found a few things that I thought would speak to him. He says, we did business for so many years, you have no idea. He says, we made millions and millions and millions of dollars together. Says Dovid HaMelech over here, if you trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you don't waver in your faith, and you put all your eggs in the basket of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and you will never be embarrassed, you will never have to fear, you will never be shamed. Trust in Hashem, that's it. Trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom, says Dovid over here, and everything will work out the way that it's supposed to work out. Will you have nisyonis in life? You will. Will you have frustrations? You will. Will you have disappointments? You will. Will everything go your way? It will not. At the end of the day, will HaKadosh Baruch Hu take good care of you? Yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take good care of you. Just don't forget to trust. All of you trust in Hashem. We don't trust in people. We don't trust in our money. We don't trust in the doctors. We don't trust in any of that. Trust in Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that brings everything. And when a person believes strong in such a way like that, says Dovid HaMelech over here, then I am certain and I am sure that with all the nisyonos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give me in life, at the end of the day, He's going to make everything turn out for the best, and I will never have to be shamed in this world nor in the next. The next verse, it's okay. Let's just see one. We'll save it for next time. Okay? Let you off for good behavior early today. And the next week is officially midwinter break. People are going to be around or not around? Okay, so no. Okay, I'll let you know before Shabbos. If I am able to be here, I'll be here, and if not, then we'll continue the following week. Okay, have a wonderful week, everyone.